Hi, everybody. This is Bob Iacchino from Path Trading Partners, along with Mike Arnold. We're here to do our weekly video for you guys on some of the major pairs. As you know, these weekly videos are more of a macro view. You'll see longer term trades that could last anywhere from a week to a few weeks, possibly even a month. But we're also going to show you the macro trend, and you can always take short-term trades in the direction of the larger trend in the pairs we show. We'll also occasionally point out some short-term opportunities as well, but mostly this is the macro view. All right, so as always, we're going to start out with the first major, Euro US dollar. Some interesting things going on fundamentally in that pair, but the most important thing is the coming ECB meeting next week. A lot of talk that Mario Draghi is going to be trying to jawbone the dollar down or the euro up, gain some euro strength really through snippets from his news conference and the like. So we turn it over to Mike to show you what he's seeing on the charts here.
All right. Hey, everyone. As we've talked about, the last couple weeks, this is the euro on a weekly basis. We went down, tested key support, which was a significant level, and we've rallied off of it each of the last few weeks, including this week where the low touched that significant level and rallied up. You can also see we're into a declining rotation zone, these two moving averages, which will continue to provide downward pressure. So any upside trades should be limited. You see we've also hit, let's switch to the daily. If we switch to the daily and take a look, this lower magenta line, which was inside the declining rotation zone on the weekly, was also hit. This was a short-term trade targets for either intraday or daily trades. You can see how that level was hit. If we continue higher next week, the next major level we're going to be targeting is the 107.15 level, which is the next magenta line. And if we do get through there, we can go and I'll just draw it in right now. The next level beyond that we can be targeting is this, let me color it as a target line, this red line. So that's going to be about the 107.50 mark. Just happens to fall right about the 107.50, exactly would be 107.58. So that would be our next target higher on a daily or intraday trade basis. Again, let's switch back to the weekly and take a look. That final target I just mentioned, that 107.50 or 58 level, is still also within the declining rotation zone. So that's as high as I would be looking without exceeding the rotation zone, which will provide a lot, as I said, downward pressure. Okay, so in summary, quick summary, we could still continue higher on a short-term basis, and I've outlined all the targets, but be careful until we get above the rotation zone on a weekly basis. And if we do close below the significant level, which is 104.52, if you get a move below there, we could retest those prior lows that have been set over the last few weeks.
So now keep in mind, longer term trend in the euro US dollar right now is down. The overall macro trend is down. If you trade that way, you're going to be looking to sell rallies for longer term trades, even though the daily seems to be potentially breaking out. Mike just pointed out how it's breaking out into resistance levels and targets. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the euro US dollar. Let's switch it over to the sterling US dollar now. Got a weekly chart up here of sterling US dollar. The UK economy is starting to show some strength. We've got the FTSE 100 that went to record highs last week. Pretty good trend in the overall economy of the UK. And we've seen some weakness in the pound during this, which is more strength in the dollar. There was weakness in the pound. You can see here we had a turnaround and we seem to be shifting back lower. Overall trend, Mike, still down, right?
Trend's still down, and I'll point out a couple of things. We tested this significant level on the daily and weekly basis. That's the lower blue line. Let me actually switch to the daily real quick. You can see how this is a level that's provided key support. We rallied off of it on Friday. We still have a declining rotation zone on the daily. If we do close or get below this significant level, the lower significant level, 1.2159 or essentially 1.2160, on a shorter term basis, you can target these next two levels lower. These are GAN extension levels. On the downside, you can look for a possible retest of the 120.94 level. And then the 120.23 levels would be the next targets lower. Back to the weekly macro time frame. We also have a potential double bottom setting up. So if we do rally higher, keep in mind still declining rotation zone. If we do rally higher and trade above this defining point on the trend line, which is the, where's my chart window? There it is. All right, if we trade above the 124.32 and especially close above that, this would be a trend line trade into this clear path move. It is going against the rotation zone though. So targets would be this declining 21 moving average. The next target would be our defining point up here by the significant level, which is the 127.28 level. And then finally, if we do get and move above the peak of this double bottom, which is up at the 127.37 level, then it will be a confirmed double bottom and we can watch for moves higher, but we're going to have a long way to go. So in summary, we have potential limited upside if we close above this trend line and especially that defining point, and back if we close lower next week or move lower below the significant level, you can target these two levels to the downside for potential trade targets.
There's an example of some shorter term within the larger context. Again, larger context on sterling US dollar is lower. Shorter term, you can target that 120.94 and that 120.23 on shorts that you see on your screen right now. Jumping over to the dollar yen, Japan took offense to some of Donald Trump's comments this week, listing Japan as one of the problem countries in terms of trade imbalances. Japan kind of fired back, not in an aggressive way, but talking about how it was inappropriate to talk about Japan because the Japanese relationship with the U.S. is a little bit more complicated and a little bit more favorable. Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso basically said China's number one, and he didn't mention Germany, which is number two, and quite frankly, Mexico's number three. Japan actually comes in fourth in that. So overall picture, dollar weakened substantially versus the yen this week. Mike, what are you seeing?
Here we have the weekly yen. You can see we have this really long clear path move. So there's not a lot of resistance here on the weekly basis. We've now closed below the 8 EMA. We can continue lower. We're in the rising rotation zone. So at any point, this could provide some upward pressure to return up. As we talked about on the daily basis, we talked about this last week. We triggered this double top move when we closed below this 116.04 level, which was on this big red bar down. We then returned up and then have slowly over this last week with, you see, straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down days, which gave you plenty of opportunities, especially even for shorter term trades in the direction of the double bottom. We did hit the first target of the double bottom, which was the 114.11 mark. And next week, if we continue lower, your next downward target is going to be the 114.23 mark. Keep in mind that as we do continue lower, you're going to want to keep in mind that we are going against the rotation zone on a weekly basis. So do not be surprised if this turns back up and retests some of these prior areas that created the double top.
So macro trend here has almost shifted to neutral, not down, not up. The overall trend was down for quite a while, but as you saw on the daily chart, it turned up a little bit. A lot of people would be pointing to the daily chart and saying we're in an uptrend right now. Always remember the longer trends matter more, and the longer trend was lower, which is why we entered this short trade that Mike just talked about. So we got short below that 116.04 area. And right now, like Mike said, we've got 2 points in our first target and looking for just a few more cents in our second target. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we will talk to you guys next week.